In this video, I am giving you a very unscientific but like straight to the point explanation on what these three lenses are. And more specifically, more along the lines of like the focal length, the aperture, which one to use, what's what, why is it good or bad, so you can have a better idea. Now, as a content creator, as a photographer, as a videographer, I don't like to use the iPhone too much because I like having a same quality standard within my cameras, the G7X, the R5C. However, as you guys know, the best camera is the one that you have on you, so I do find myself leaning on this a lot, and for good reason. The iPhone is a Swiss Army knife in your backpack. So let's understand it a little bit more. Now, so you know, whenever you open up your phone, the first camera that will always pop up is like your main camera. This is the best camera out of the three. Why? Because usually, just like right now for the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max, they're using a different sensor for this lens. So for those phones, you actually have a 48 megapixel sensor behind that lens, whereas the other two drop down to their standard 12 megapixel sensor. And believe me, 12 megapixels is definitely enough. Just so you guys know, the easiest way of knowing which is your main lens, just open up the photo app and then just put your finger on one of the lenses in front of it, and that will easily let you know which is going to be your main lens. So now that we know that this top one is our main lens, make sure you wipe it, make sure you keep it clean, because this is what we're gonna be using 90% of the time. So in iPhone terms, this top lens is a 1x zoom in factor, but at least millimeter wise or focal length, we consider this a 24 millimeter. 24 millimeter is like kind of on the wide side, but people have now accepted it to be like a standard focal length. It's great for Instagram, it's great for lifestyle. 24 and 35 are like the industry standard on what to have for just day-to-day photography. And keep in mind, the natural eye's field of view is a 50 millimeter, so you're already getting double the amount of like what a single eye would see, but now with two, with your 24 millimeter. And one cool thing about the main camera is the aperture, or how much light is able to come in. Its diameter is so large that it's actually 1 1/3 times bigger than the other ones. What that means is it lets 1 1/3 stops or like increments of light in more. So that's actually going to be the best camera for low light. It's going to be the best camera for having a nice depth of field. It's actually the same camera that their phone uses for like the portrait mode. Whether you're taking pictures inside or in a shady area, or you're outside and it's getting dark, the main camera is your best tool, because at least for numbers, the 24 millimeter or main camera has a 1.8 aperture, whereas the other two go all the way down to 2.8. Doesn't sound like a big difference, but it really is. And the other two, so you guys know, the iPhone 15 Pro Max ultra wide is a 13 millimeter lens, and that's very wide. Just for you can see, this is 35, this is 24, and this is 15. See how much more of the room you actually see? Now, you may not always want to be doing that. However, at least for real estate, which is like a big area for photographers, 15 all the way down to 12 is what's considered like a perfect focal length for them to make sure these homes look super wide and like very big. So 13 falls right in that area. So if you're ever trying to take pictures of rooms, if you're ever trying to get a huge field of view, the ultra wide is wonderful. And if you're trying to decide whether your camera or your phone will be slightly wider, now you know the numbers. This right here is a 15, but this one can shoot all the way down to 13 millimeters. And lastly, the third lens that we never use until we need to use it, and it's actually pretty nice to have when we do use it, is the telephoto lens. The iPhone 15 Pro has a 77 millimeter equivalent lens, which is probably like 5 times more punched in than what the 1x is, 24 all the way to 77, which is super useful for when you're trying to zoom in. But to be honest, as a lifestyle photographer, as like every day to day, 77 is kind of extremely close up, so I don't find myself ever really using it that much. But again, it's very useful for when you actually do need it. So that's a wrap for this video. I hope this small little bit of information helped. It's just a good understanding for you guys to know if you're looking to do content creating with your phone, what the actual numbers compare to an actual camera. So if you're trying to decide between an EOS R, if you're trying to decide between a G7X, if you're trying to decide between any Sony, at least that kind of gives you a good idea and a good feel of like what focal length you like using a lot. If you find yourself shooting a lot more ultra wide, when you get a camera, you can make sure that you have the same millimeter number or focal length so that style continues on, or 24, 35. This is just a good way of you being able to measure what your phone can do for you. So thanks for watching, guys. If you leave a like, it really does make a difference. But thank you for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next episode. Peace.